Well, hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today for our workplace well-being session. Today's topic is transforming workplace well-being, insights and innovations for a healthier workplace. So as we have everyone joining us here during our time together, I'm just going to invite you into the chat, as we always do, to maybe put in your name, where you're here from, where you're coming from across this beautiful country of ours, and then what is your favorite winter activity? One of the things I know where I'm sitting in Ohio, it's like 10 degrees and sunny, but it's freezing. And it would be lovely to be, at a ski lodge or something else. But what is it that you love to do in the wintertime to keep yourselves occupied when the temperatures drop? And as we're doing that, we're just going to give some space so people can get in and join us to spend the time here together. So thank you for that. And I love some of the things that are coming through the chat. This is wonderful. Thank you for sharing those. As we get started, just want to introduce those of us that are on the call here today to have a conversation with you. Myself, I am Jennifer Cox. I'm the manager of our National Trainer Network here for Mental Health First Aid USA with the National Council for Mental Wellbeing. And I'm joined by three of my colleagues to share in this conversation and give you insights as well as do some question and answer. So Kim, do you want to introduce yourself quickly? And then Jonathan will go to you.
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Burdett. I'm the AVP of Marketing here at the National Council for Mental Wellbeing. Also freezing in Ohio today, so hope everyone is staying warm.
Hey, y'all, this is Jonathan Grau. I've been leading the mental health first aid at work efforts and now working directly with our clients for nearly 8 years now. And we've had a wonderful journey with you. We're very much looking forward to telling you more about the new programming and looking forward to hearing from Kim.
And I'm Jamie Chapman. I'll be monitoring the chat for any Q&As that you may have that might come up.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for the introductions. You'll get to hear from everyone as we kind of move through our time here together. Just a reminder, most of us are comfortable in Zoom, but please remember, we want your questions as we go through the conversation here today, whether it's in the chat or in the Q&A. So find those on your toolbar. Specific questions are perfect in that Q&A box. That's really going to help us go through and see what we're going to answer live versus what we are going to answer within the content or separately. And we will have eyes. Jamie is the master at that. He will have eyes on that. So as we move through, if we need to stop and take some of those questions, we will definitely do that. So make yourself familiar with the platform and make yourselves comfortable. We have a lot to cover in our short time here together today, and our learning objectives are on the screen for you just to kind of take a look at. But what we are here to step into is looking at this concept of well-being in the workplace. We've started a new year. We're 5 years out of this COVID experience that we've had, and we have all kinds of dynamics that are happening in our communities and in our workplaces that have adjusted as time has moved and the ways of working has changed alongside it. So we're going to define a little bit of what this evolving workspace is looking like and where mental well-being sits within that. We're definitely going to look at some strategies, as always, to say, what can I take from the conversation today and immediately apply into my workspace? And obviously the focus here today is enhancing that employee mental health and that overall sense of well-being. We're going to look at the impact that disconnect and workplace disconnect specifically has on our employees and our staffs and maybe us as well. And that what are some things that we can do tangibly now and progressively over time to rebuild that connection, that disconnection we've been feeling, but how do we bring that connection back into alignment and that it aligns with our goals for the company, the organization, our mission, our values, and all of that. And then again, what are some practical steps that we can do to influence the culture of wellness within our organizations? A lot to do in a short amount of time, but we got this, and we hope you enjoy the process and the conversation with us. I want to start out first asking you a question. You logged into this to be a part of the conversation with us today. You probably have curiosities of your own, but we're going to launch a poll here that's just going to ask your insights, and you can click all that apply that's up there. But why do you think that it's important right now that we're shining a light on well-being in today's work world? Where is that value? What's the importance of that? You should see the poll pop up on your screen right now, and just kind of take a moment to see what your answers are, and we'll see what we get and engage of responses. But basically looking at the world that we work in, it's wellness is gaining increasing attention. It's a crucial aspect of what's happening in our work environments with all the changes that we've been through over the past few years, on top of the everyday stress that we have in our workspaces. But mental health in the workplace it's crucial for us to look at and reflect upon how we can support ourselves and each other, our psychological, our emotional health, alongside the physical wellness that we are really, really good at attending to. Now, as the focus of mental health has intensified since the past, 5 years of life and the world changes around us, the awareness of our mental health challenges has also grown. Our stress levels have increased, burnout rates are becoming talked about, and we're noticing the changes in those. And our workforce dynamics and the needs that we have as employees are different too. So we also have noticed that organizations, we're under pressure. We're under pressure to have comprehensive support systems that are addressing all of these changing needs for all of us in the different industries that we're representing. And some of these key innovations have been really wonderful tools. We'll take a moment here in a little bit to talk about some of how AI plays a role in this, how we're monitoring things within our workforce, maybe the digital health resources, and even how, if we're adopting new organizational practices like flexible work schedules, mental health days, things like that, that can support us as we work and as life impacts us, what's available to us to impact the culture and our organizations as we move into whatever tomorrow brings, or the months and the years that are ahead. There's a lot of developments out there. Now, we're looking at some of the responses coming in, and a lot of us are looking at how do we just in general, the results that we have, how do we improve our overall employee engagement, our productivity, and our wellness. So thank you for that. That's really important. And luckily it aligns with what we're going to have a conversation about here today. So with that being said, I want to start with, what is this evolution? How has mental well-being in the workplace evolved over time? The prioritization of mental health support, it's crucial. It fosters our supportive work culture. There was some research that's been done over the past few years, but the insights from the 2023 Work in America survey that many of you maybe took, that was conducted by the American Psychological Association, gave us insights and shed some light on the importance of what psychological well-being is in the workplace. What are we expecting as employees in regards to the support of our mental health, in addition to the jobs that we have to do every day? We also had the release of the Surgeon General's framework for workplace mental health and well-being in 2022, that also put a spotlight and accelerated these conversations and experiences and changes in just such a wonderful and new way. Now, this evolving concept, it refers really to what have we done proactively as organizations to support our staff, our teams, our employees, to support their psychological health. The focus has really been on reducing stress, fostering resilience, promoting this concept or reality of work-life balance, or some people call it work-life harmony, and then also ensuring that overall, are we physically, emotionally, and mentally stable, and can we get to that place so that we can really be at our top functional capacity in the jobs that we do. Now, it's really important for us to recognize that if we can create a positive and supportive environment in our workspaces where our staff and our employees feel that they're valued and they're heard and empowered, that everything is going to benefit from that. So in today's organizational landscape, well-being and mental well-being is increasingly important. Our awareness is increasing, and we're noticing that well-being is directly impacting productivity, engagement, staff retention. But we also know the reality is that we have stress, don't we, in our workplace? Those workplace stressors, the life stressors. We're working remote, we're working hybrid. We're in organizations now. Many of your organizations are saying, we have to put priorities in different ways, different lenses, to see what we can do to support each other, so that our employees feel heard, that there's satisfaction in the work that we do, that burnout then can be decreased, and really that we collectively can be active in that process of improving our overall business outcomes. So it's key. This is mental well-being. It's a key component to having a holistic approach to employee health and success. I mean, let's be honest, we spend over 2,000 hours at work per year. I know reading that to me just makes me kind of swallow a little bit. 2,000 hours. That's just our documented time of working, right? Not the extra stuff that we do. In workplace mental health, it can have an extraordinary impact on our lives. And as leaders within the spaces that each one of you are coming from, we hope these conversations can help us to commit to explore what it is that we can do to keep going, to enhance, that does support the mental health work culture so that all of our employees, 100% of our teams, can feel safe and supported at work. Well, how do we do that? This redefinition of the workplace wellness space. Many of you are doing things. There's lots of initiatives that are happening and programs that are happening and conversations that are being molded around, especially at the start of the year, depending upon where your fiscal years begin and end. We do a lot of conversations with this. And in order to redefine what well-being looks like in the workplace, it means we have to shift a little bit. We got to shift from our traditional view of what employee health is. And it's not just encompassing a lack or an absence of mental health concerns. It's about being proactive in cultivating that support and positive environment where our employees and teams are thriving, not just surviving. And that thriving should be in our mental and our emotional and our physical space. It involves us taking a look and acknowledging that this well-being concept, initiative, idea is that it's multifaceted. There are many factors that can influence it, and there's other factors that can help to support it. So we want to look at stress management, emotional resilience, work-life balance that I mentioned before, our satisfaction, and feeling that the work we're doing is meaningful. This redefinition, it really calls for us to take a deeper understanding of what is mental health and mental well-being. It's about moving away from those reactive measures to proactive strategies, such as what are the resources we're providing for mental health support? Can we offer different flexibilities or more flexibilities? Are we fostering conversations that are open about the health and wellness of us? And are we prioritizing the implementation of policies that support psychological safety? It also recognizes that helps us that mental well-being is integral to our, as I said before, to productivity, to engagement, and overall organizational success. So we're urging, this redefinition urges us to take a look at more comprehensive approaches to health and well-being. So this evolving landscape says a lot about what we just mentioned, but it's moving from the illness focus to wellness. Instead of the traditional work centered on one thing, it's looking at comprehensively, how can we attend to the most of to support the people that we have so that we can prevent illness, right, from becoming the focus of what's going on. And we want to create environments where employees can thrive. I said it before, we've got to address the burnout, the opportunities, the doing more with less, and that culture of wellness that is prioritizing where we can find the balances that work most efficiently for us as an individual, as well as for the collective, of our teams. That's resilience, isn't it? We've talked about that before. It's conversations, it's a buzzword. And so many things that we talk about is what is resilience? And so we want to move into that place where the ripple effect can happen and our health collectively can expand and improve. And that can be done in many different ways. That resiliency building, it also goes hand in hand with literacy building. So we understand what it is that we're talking about and where it applies. And then having the skills to be responsive versus reactive, right? Proactive and preventative versus constantly putting out the fires or managing the things that are difficult. So this is really important for us. In a moment, Kim's going to come in and talk a little bit about what are some of the different things and ways that we can do this that are innovative. But before we move into that, I want to really stress this concept and this idea of redesigning ourselves, creating a holistic approach that comes with a couple components. Let's acknowledge that it can be complex, but it needs our attention. Our workers need that attention. We need it, and the cultures that we're working in definitely, whether it's in our industry, nationally, or just in your office, to support our well-being and our mental health. This evolving landscape, we need to look at the expectations that our employees have as they come into the space, to bring them into the space, and recognize that this holistic approach needs to be adopted across the board, not just with our new hires, not just with our leaders, but with all of us and all the different layers of who we are and how we work, and be incorporated into the work that we do every day, all aspects of it. It's not a fits all, but there are definitely some tools and our resources that are available to you all that can cater to the needs that your workspace may be having now, or that you're anticipating proactively to be able to address here in the future. This well-being conversation doesn't need to be isolated. It shouldn't be isolated as an initiative just working in one point or one area, but really looking at how we incorporate this into all of our dynamics, our leadership approaches, our performance reviews, benefits, wellness programming, all the things that we can offer and have available. That's the flexibility and the personalization that is really important that we keep in focus. And then we want to measure it, don't we? We want to be able to see, how is this impacting? What is the priority? Is it changing or supporting our engagement, our productivity, our retention? And if it isn't, how can we adjust so that maybe it can meet those needs in a better way? And what is available to us to help make that happen, to meet the needs and to kind of do some monitoring of what it looks like. So we're going to transition now into what are some of these tools that are available. We have so many innovations and technologies. And guess what? We have another poll. So I love the things that are happening in the chat, but we also want to narrow this down to, like, what is it that you are already seeing in your workspaces? What are some of these key innovations that either you're using or you're aware of, sure, to support well-being in the workplace? And the options, as you see on the poll that just popped up, maybe it's about flexibility of space or hours. Maybe it's about the programs or the resources. Is it team building, wellness, technology, AI-powered apps and management opportunities, and employee recognition or growth? So we'll give you a moment to answer that. And then Kim's going to join us and tell us a little bit about what some of these new innovations are, maybe some of what we're using here at the National Council as well, just to give you an example of real life. And then we'll kind of move in to see what are some strategies that you can apply or use right now. So give you a minute to finish up that poll. And then Kim, it's going to hand things over to you.
Sounds great. Thank you, Jen. Loving seeing some of these comments talking about employee recognition being a really important innovation that folks are focusing on. So love seeing that. I'm excited to talk to you all today about what the role of AI is in mental wellness. So Jen, if you can go to the next slide, that would be fantastic. Thank you. And there's so many things we can talk about with AI, but first, just a little bit of background about why I'm here to talk about AI is because I like to say that I am cautious, I am skeptic, and I am enamored with AI. I use it regularly in my role here at the National Council, working with the marketing team, but also have developed AI policies and guidelines for the entire organization and how we all interact with AI on a daily basis. And my team uses it and is a much better, more productive, and happier group of folks because they utilize those technologies themselves. So I'm here to talk about what AI can do in the mental wellness space. And the first thing that's really exciting is the personalization that can come with AI. So healthcare isn't really this one-size-fits-all approach anymore. With AI, you don't have to just focus on how many steps you're getting in a day or what your heart rate is. Now we can actually talk about what are the emotional implications or the mental things that folks are going through, and how can we kind of see a more, to Jen's point, holistic approach to the employee to really give them the support that they need to do better in their roles. So it's really exciting to see that AI can kind of pull in the data points from all of the various places, whether it's your step count, your heart rate, your sleep score, if you're taking meditation breaks, what those breathing exercises are. AI can kind of pull that together and really create tailored interventions for employees going through things. So stress management, burnout mitigations, well-being tactics, all of these things can be done at the individual level for an employee, but at scale across your entire organization. So that's really, really exciting. And it's something that I think a lot of folks want to, we talk a lot about AI being scary, but imagine the impact of a wellness universe that we all have here that we can have based off of AI. Another thing I really love that is near and dear to our heart here at the National Council is reducing stigma and increasing access. It's a really big passion point for us here because we really do believe in reducing that stigma, and AI allows us to do that even more. And that's through virtual platforms, chatbots, guided meditation apps, you name it. There are ways that people can kind of talk to, a faceless human and say, hey, I'm going through something, but I don't really feel like I can talk to my spouse or my family or my friends about it. Here is somebody behind a screen that you can talk to and feel more comfortable with. So that really does decrease that stigma that people feel about mental health and ultimately gives them the care that they need in that moment, which is really, really exciting. And think about the ability that we can now access for folks who live in remote communities, people who have really specialized, care needs when it comes to their mental health or behavioral health. How can they really talk to folks if their physical community doesn't allow them to do that? Gone are the days of going into an office of a doctor and sitting on a couch. We can talk to somebody on our screen at any time of day. And that's another great thing about this increasing access with AI is, we have 24/7 access. It's no longer just the 9 to 5 hours of a therapist that you can talk to. It's really, anybody could log in at 3 in the morning. Let's face it, that's usually when people are having a hard time sleeping. They have insomnia and anxiety. They can get on a chatbot and say, hey, I have insomnia right now, or I'm really anxious. What can I do? And they'll be able to provide mental health resources, answer questions, guide them through coping exercises, a lot of things that take up a lot of time for an individual counselor to do. Now a chatbot can do that. And chatbots can also say, hey, this person does need an actual human touch. We do need to have them connect with a human. So then they can escalate cases to human counselors if a more intensive support is needed, which is really valuable. So the last thing about, sorry, I'll move on to the next one, which was early intervention. So chatbots, like I said, it's really saying, hey, I'm having a hard time with this moment. You don't want to wait until somebody hits a crisis before they come and say, actually, I really need to talk to somebody. You want to be able to have those early interventions. It's like getting in your 10,000 steps a day helps prevent heart disease and cancer. Similarly, on the mental health side, how are we utilizing our tools in front of us to ensure that we're getting the interventions in early? So AI allows us to use predictive analytics now to really measure lots of different data points that were just, a few years ago considered super sci-fi. Looking at a person's text messages, seeing decreases in productivity on a team's project, communication changes. Now there's even technology where you can test the deflection and tone of somebody's voice, and that can then determine a risk level increase for a certain type of mental health illness. So it's really incredible what all of these different tools can do when they're combined together. And just imagine if you had, symptoms A, D, and F, checked off, maybe there's some tool where and the AI is alerting a manager or HR about the potential issues. And therefore they could say, hey, we're coming to you now because we can feel there's something going on and we know you're not comfortable sharing it, but we're here and here are some resources to help you in this moment. Really, really powerful. Another example of early interventions are wellness nudges. So I have a smartwatch here that yells at me if I sit still for too long and don't get my movement in. Now we're moving that into the mental health space. Now I have my team sends me random notifications throughout the day to do my meditation through my Calm app or to get up and move, or now they have breathing exercises. So there's lots of wellness nudges that AI can help us with to really kind of mitigate some of those bigger risks that come if we ignore those symptoms. Next is supporting leaders, and I've mentioned just all the things we can do to help employees, but AI has so many implications for how to help managers, everything from, individualized employee management plans, working with them on, their specific jobs that they're in, if they're at a higher risk for certain things, really working to make sure that, if there's a certain personality type that likes this type of management over others, there's so many things that you can do as a manager to have an AI work on creating a management plan, which is also really exciting. And then my favorite thing on this entire list, and I could geek out about this for hours, but I won't, is increased efficiency. So even though this isn't technically what I would say a mental health benefit, it does benefit all of our mental health when we're not doing really boring, mundane tasks all the time. So how can we automate routine tasks and improve workflows in our day-to-day to allow us to focus on the creative and the strategic and the fun parts of our job? For instance, I use note takers in all of my meetings now. That allows me to have action items automatically go into my project management tool. I have a to-do list that's automatically created using AI now. It's just a really great example of how I can focus and listen in the conversation instead of writing my notes on the side, trying to make sure I'm catching everything. So it's just one example, but I think it's a really great way of demonstrating how any AI tool can also help us in our mental wellness at work. And finally, continuous learning. So, AI is always listening, always learning how we're doing. One of my favorite sayings is that we are drowning in data, but we're starving for insights. And that just really speaks to how many data points we have access to in the day-to-day in our work, right? So, you have pulse surveys for employees, you do engagement surveys, you have the qualitative feedback, you do performance reviews. There's so many different ways that you're collecting data. And then what happens with it? A lot of times it sits on a shelf. With AI, it really allows you to kind of pull all of those data sets together and synthesize it in a way and benchmark it against industry peers so you can actually see what other folks are doing to create a digestible chunk of content that can ultimately create clear action plans. So AI allows you to really kind of pull together that content in a more streamlined manner to really focus on the things that allow you to identify trends around all of the mental well-being initiatives you have in your organization, such as what are the common stressors that people are dealing with? What are the burnout risks they might have? Are there specific mental health challenges for some of those team members? So there's lots of opportunities for folks to use AI in their work. So now you're probably saying, okay, Kim, what are the tools themselves? So if Jen, you want to go to the next slide, I would love to just share some specific examples. We don't really we don't discriminate when it comes to AI tools. I think it's still so new. It's really important to just get around and play around with them a little bit and kind of get comfortable with them and really figure out what makes the most sense for your organization's needs. But some of the top buckets here are apps for like mindfulness and stress reduction. So Headspace and Calm are two of the really big ones. They help you do breathing exercises. There's also apps for sleep management. We know sleep is so invaluable when it comes to your physical and your emotional health. So Sleep Cycle is a good app that uses, the data for how you're sleeping to kind of help you learn those patterns. As I said, exercise and physical activity, having the smartwatch, any Fitbit or other types of physical activity to encourage employees to kind of get up and move around really does improve mood, reduce anxiety, and really enhances their overall cognitive function, which is really valuable. And other things like work-life balance apps. So these are apps that are, Rescue Time is one, Trello. We use Asana here at the National Council to really help us be more organized, productive, and, turn it off after the end of the workday. So, be able to say, here's my to-do list. Now I'm going to turn it off and focus on being home and having that work-life balance to really prevent that burnout, which is important. So being able to focus on all of these things it seems a little overwhelming, but that's where I would stop and say, what is the most important thing that you can do today to really incorporate any type of technology or innovation into your work? Not everything here will work for you and your organization, but it's really about developing an integrated mental wellness strategy for your organization and incorporating these tools into those activities so you are also not getting burned out and stressed out from all of the management that you're doing for your employee engagement. I feel like I talked very quick, Jen. Did I miss anything?
No, Kim, that's wonderful. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about, what have I used? And some of this was really stressful for me to start, right? Thinking, oh, like Asana, we incorporated it. And I was like, oh, what a great idea. But I don't know how to do it. And it stressed me out to get going with it. But then as I learned it and started to see the impact, it's improving. It's continuing a work in progress for me, I'll be honest. But that's improving. But like the Calm app, I use it every morning. I use it in the evening. Sometimes I use it when I need a break in between meetings. And that has really just become a mainstay and a staple in what I do personally, just to help me navigate my day in a better way. So helpful. And seeing some things in the chat, different, everybody wants to know what tools we use to organize ourselves. Those work balance ones, those seem to be the high interest. So thank you very, very much. And it's interesting as we talk about how we use digital media and different tools to help us navigate things. there's an interesting other side of the coin to this, Kim, and I don't know if you've seen this in your research and work, but people are also saying that these tools actually disconnect us from ourselves. And even the virtual working disconnects us from the relationship building. And we're walking a very interesting line in regards to how we use them, how much we depend upon them, what are we paying attention to ourselves? And I think it leads us into, there's a lot of conversations, which we're going to talk about here, about what is this thing you've probably heard that's called the Great Detachment. It was the Great Resignation, right? A few years ago that we saw this trend and where people were shifting workspaces and needing something different, changing their roles, their industries, all the things. And what's happening now is even if we've gotten into those places where it felt better for us and we're getting the tools that are working, there is a little bit of a sense of a detachment where we're not connecting, or we're struggling with the way that we do connect, or what to watch for, or remembering how to engage with each other and ourselves. And there's a couple different factors that have influenced this. So we want to recognize that there's an ebb and flow, right? There's a line of both sides, and finding that perfect recipe or combination, it's going to look a little bit different for each of our organizations and for each of us as human beings. But what a wonderful opportunity for us to find these new ways. So I love that you shared that with us. But we talked about at the start of our conversation, our workplaces have changed. It's a fact. We have had to change how we relate to each other, how we do our jobs, and a lot of that has really helped us move forward. There's a lot of things that happen in growth of our industries and our workspaces. While they don't look the same as they did, for those of us that have been around for a while, and those of us coming into this work world, it's like, what's happening? It's not how I learned it to be in school. Opportunity, right? We like to say that this is a possible opportunity to see how can we move past the Great Resignation, lean in towards whatever this detachment is, but then find the way that we can have that balance of connection with what's available and what's possible for us moving forward. So this trend of psychological disconnect in workplaces, sometimes we're feeling disengaged from our people or our jobs or the work and the mission of what it is that we're doing. The digital connection is a way to bring us a little closer together in a way that takes out some factors, but incorporates some things to help us with navigation. And it's a chance, just like, well, maybe why you logged in with us here today, is to say, what is it that I can do to expand the connections within my workspace, with well-being being the focus, which culture improvement or enhancement is a priority. And it really aligns with the work that we do so that we can realign ourselves and reconnect ourselves to the values, to the purpose, to the meaning, and the fulfillment that happens in the important work that we're doing every single day. So employee well-being, has there been disconnect? Sure. Are there new ways and opportunities? Absolutely. And we think we can support us in that. So what is happening now? This disorientation, the disconnect, for those of us that are visual and kind of need to see what's happening, these 5 factors up here have been pretty much across industries. The landscape of change, the transformation that has happened so quickly, the growing pains that happen within this new virtual world and digital enhancements versus the things we've been so comfortable with, and walking down the hallway, right? And saying hello to Jonathan, at his desk, and just having that natural, organic experience. Our employees have different expectations. Our customers that we serve and provide product and supports for, they have different expectations. And trying to keep track of it all and keep ourselves and growing and moving that, it's become pretty complicated. But this unique opportunity and these changes doesn't have to stay in the place of detachment or disconnection or feeling disoriented and confused. And there's a few things that we want to suggest, some strategies that can possibly help and bring that reconnection into our focus and into our grasp so that we can actually activate it with and utilize the tools that are readily available for us. Now, I mentioned the APA's, the 2023 Work in America survey. And the confirmation that throughout that survey, it was really showing us that psychological well-being, it's high priority. Actually showed that 92% of our workforce said that they value when their organization when they feel like their organization cares about their well-being, physical, emotional, psychological well-being. They want to work for organizations that provide that support. But we're also seeing in that data that 84% of the workforce right now reports that the conditions in our workspaces actually contribute to the fact that we're struggling with our mental health and our wellness and our physical health because of the stress and the other factors that I literally just showed you on the screen here. So when we look at this and we look at engagement, it's about looking at a few factors for us. Yeah, that data is a little shocking. I'm watching some of these reactions coming up here. People, number one, are responding to the surveys, which we love that in the world of data, right, and research. But what it's showing to us is there's imbalance that's there. So what do we do? What are some strategies that we can do to reconnect? Honestly, it requires us to get back to some basics. And those basics are the top three things right here. It's about resetting our expectations. The most fundamental aspects of employee performance and development at work is knowing what's expected of us. Having a clear expectation that we agree upon, right? That this is what's going to bring us to success in the project, the initiative, the product, whatever it is that we're moving forward. And in order to have those conversations and get those expectations set, we need to have clear communication. Whether it's top down, bottom up, laterally, throughout the organization, we need to have clarity in the conversation in order for us to establish stability and guidance into what's being asked of our teams. So really, really looking at the reset of what is it? Are we communicating in a way that it can be received and acted upon, but then also checked, right? Holding ourselves accountable for what needs to happen or what we're hoping to happen, and directly foster what this does in consistency and clarity, fosters a sense of security in humans, in us as people, as workers, as individuals. That sense of security of knowing what to do, when we need to get it done, and how it can be done, and then checking along the way is highly, highly encouraged, and we respond to it. It's also about having regular check-ins. Not only do we set the expectation, but where are we at? How are we doing? Where are we at in the process? And what do we need to get to the next phase? So using those check-ins as we set the respectful expectations, is really going to help and support the culture. It's going to support your community and your team with what we're doing. And then obviously overall what we're delivering to the people that we're here to serve. Now, when we look at the connection, the center circle there is about how are we as individuals contributing to the greater purpose. For example, here at the National Council, when we do our yearly performance evaluations, we had our personal goals, we had our team goals, but we wanted to make sure that from that one Jen in this corner of the community of mental health first aid or the National Council, how do her goals align with the team, with the division, with the National Council as the big picture, and then back the other direction as well. So are we looking at what is it that we're doing? What's the meaning behind it? And do we feel that we're connected to a greater purpose than just checking off my to-do list at the end of the day? Or saying, yay, I got those steps. Or I got this project done, check, what's next? Hugely, hugely important that they're aligning again. I know some organizations have looked at their missions and values in this new world and have adjusted language or focus. And it's important that all those pieces of that kaleidoscope, of that one unit of what it is that we're doing as an organization, can create a picture together if you go with the kaleidoscope image, right? So we want that engagement, we want the connection, and then it comes down to the leadership that we have. Are we as the leaders, which, selfishly, I think we're all leaders. It doesn't just come from our job title. It comes from the work that we're doing. So as leaders, title or not, how are we connecting this? How are we modeling this for the people that we're responsible for, that we're empowering to do the work that is out there? Are we communicating and inspiring the visions that we can actually stand behind and then bring the rest of our communities and our teams with us in that direction? And it needs to be a commitment. As I brought up saying leaders are all of us, because it's about that engagement. How do we bring this as a team? How do we move ourselves in a forward direction that is for the benefit of the individual as well as the whole? And our effort is one thing that we show that by modeling, by our transparency, by our willingness to have clear conversations, open conversations. If Jonathan's like, man, I'm really struggling with this, that doesn't then penalize him for saying he's not capable of something. No, we're just saying right now, this is tough. How can we collectively be responsive? And as leaders, we can foster that experience. One way that we can do that too is building our own literacy, helping ourselves understand what the nature is. What are the tools available to us that as a team can we use differently? And tripping, as well as soaring and flying through the experience of the things that we can adapt. But we need to learn. There's some things that we don't know yet. There's some things that we can know more of. And there's some skills that can be applied to that, that a lot of these tools and programs like we're going to talk about in a moment that can help support those things. So what are some actionable strategies for you, for me, for us as organizations to move forward? Well, the first step is look at the current state, right? What's happening on your teams? Where are the needs? Where are the imbalances? And including in the employee need and their well-being, the challenges as well as the triumphs that are happening. Then we want to say, what are the resources? Like Kim talked about, all those different things that are available to us. The education and learning opportunities that are out there for us. This changes in the environment that we can make now that maybe we're all back in the office at some point, or we're still doing this hybrid and remote thing. But how do we leverage those tools and platforms and supports that are out there for us? We also want to look at how can we build our skills so that we all can move forward. The third step is promoting the engagement. That's the action, right? We take the scan, we look at what's possible, what's happening, where do we need to move, what do we have available, but then how are we going to do it? We want to promote the engagement. We want to bring awareness to individuals to the journey that we're on, and then give access to people so that they can utilize the tools that are out there. Not just talk about it, but literally here it is. What do you think? And how is it we showing an impact as we move forward? And participating in the programs that are out there. Not just saying, hey, it would be a good idea, but no, this is important. We expect you to be here. And by the way, I'm going to sit right beside you in that training and be a part of it as well. And then lastly, we bring all this together by looking back. How is it helping us? Evaluate it. Look at the different ways that from the feedback, can we learn how these things can support us or possibly have an impact on the productivity and the work that we do, and adjust if we need to. It's that ebb and flow. It's okay to say, yeah, that didn't quite work out so well, or it did a little, but if we do this, it can be better. So those are our 4 steps to support the strategies of how we can bring this mental well-being initiatives, programming, learning opportunities, tools into our workspaces in a very simple and tangible way, right? That we can apply. So what do we need to know before I bring Jonathan into this conversation is some key takeaways for you into the topics that Kim brought up and gave us wonderful insights on, and the things that I've shared with you with connection, disconnection, and how do we shift into this new world? Number 1, be proactive. What can we do now to improve the next as we move forward and time moves and gives us new challenges? We want to focus on reducing the stress. We got enough of it. We don't need more, right? That does so in a way that fosters our capacity to move forward and have that resilience and promote a balance that works for us, using the tools, and especially in the well-being state of how can we utilize these tools to decrease the stigma, increase our access, and make it personal to us so that we can be better in the space, the work that we do, and bring our whole self at the best level that we can bring into our workspaces. We need to reset our expectations. Today is a new day, and the sun will shine. When there is darkness, the light will come on the other side. So what are our expectations, and how can we reconnect ourselves to our organizational values and our missions? And what are the learning opportunities that are available to us, along with the tools that we can incorporate well-being into the everyday of what it is that we do? There's so many resources out there that are available, and we're going to share with you just one of them. So Jonathan Grau, I'm going to invite you in to just have this conversation and just introduce mental health first aid at work as a possible tool that can support our people on the call here today. And then we'll wrap up and see if there's any questions.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Jen. I agree that this return to office has brought us full circle, and a lot of us are grappling with how we're going to re-enter. and leverage AI. I was and am still a bit of a skeptic, but I'm opening up to some of the tools that are available. And what did it for me was attending a mindfulness seminar back in September, where, just as Kim mentioned, they talked about using AI to support well-being and to guide meditations and to do it in a personalized way. It's fascinating, right? But we just can't let the machine elves take over while we're there, right? So what we'll talk about today is that full circle approach to mental health awareness and training in the workplace. We're very proud to present this product line, which represents a big step forward into the enterprise, right? So this entire at work product line has been designed ideally to reach every employee, even frontline employees. And the way we do that is by delivering a learning system, really, that starts with self-directed online tools and is followed up by some of our traditional instructor-led curricula. And so what we are really attempting to do, as Jen mentioned, is address those issues that have a higher prevalence rate or a higher frequency at work, concentrate on those issues, and really identify the best ways to, to help our colleagues recognize for themselves if they're maybe experiencing some overwhelming stress or are trying to do too much, and give them an opportunity to reset, ground themselves, and think about how to leverage those health and employee benefits that are typically made available through most workplaces. So mental health first aid is focused on the following in the workplace. It really wants to introduce the ALGE action plan, which is a stepwise approach. It's a standard and universal approach to identifying risk, identifying signs and indicators of distress, and then being prepared to have a conversation confidently, skillfully, and listen, ideally non-judgmentally. And we practice that and we really sort of unpack that concept, but be prepared to hear stuff that we may not typically hear at work, right? And understand that as managers or as supervisors or as colleagues, we can be there to listen, and we can also be there to help. And mostly we're there to refer, right? So knowing that it's not our job, it's not necessarily our role or responsibility to step in and address these issues, it absolutely can be one aspect of our work life to give reassurance, help people understand that care is available, that an EAP is accessible. And the only way, frankly, that we've been able to demonstrate this is through mental health first aid at work training. It's been super helpful to bring in key leaders who can promote a healthy, happy work environment, who can model best practice, and who can ideally approve budget and make a commitment to this on behalf of their organization. Additionally, as we go down the food chain, we are able to actually not think of it that way. We're actually able to think of it as an empowerment mechanism, as a way for employees to really find new ways to engage and do so in a really wholesome and holistic way, right? So we can have these safe conversations sanctioned by our employer, maybe join an employee resource group, and fundamentally become advocates for this internally. We call them mental health first aiders or peer support champions. And these are people who encourage each other to take responsibility for themselves, for each other. And lo and behold, it can yield some really high performing teams because we've built some trust and we understand each other and we know how to take acceptable and thoughtful risk so we can move the ball. Bottom line is, this is not necessarily the end to a mental health campaign or a total health strategy, but it's a super important part. It complements and can fit in nicely with company values and other benefits like Lyra and Mindshare and a number of other organizations who promote different types of well-being in the workplace. So we want to make sure that you understand all of the mental health first aid at work products and services that are available to you. We've worked with over 500 employees in the last 8 years. They all have different stories to tell, and we'd love to hear from you and learn more about how you might build a cohort of first aiders, how you might introduce these concepts to a much wider audience, and finally, how we can sustain those programs by touching base with our instructors maybe every 6 months or every 12 months and thinking about how we can promote this concept of champions in the workplace. So there's a lot going on, and we'd love to talk with you about it.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. And I want to stress there, you had mentioned 500 employees, actually 500 partners and organizations, right?
Pardon me, misspoke.
Not just staff. And this has been across industries and across the journey that we've all taken here over the last 5 to 10 years together of changes in workforce and addressing the current needs and challenges. We did have one question that I don't know, Kim or Jonathan, either one can answer this, that was, how do you tie initiatives like this into the large workforce spaces? Like some of us come from smaller organizations, others are really, really large with lots of bodies and heads in our sites and our workplaces. How do we ensure that somebody feels like they're a part of that when it's a big group with a large implementation of something like a well-being initiative? What do y'all think?
Well, I think I'll step in without going too far into the product suite. We have designed something that allows everyone to participate in that type of program, and it can take anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half on a brown bag, introducing everybody to mental health 101 and generating awareness. We can do new hire orientation through the intro e-learning product. And then we can really dive deep with our traditional certification trainings and our champion trainings. So that's just one way that we've designed something that helps organizations touch every individual, ideally, at work.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. And there's question always comes up, especially in regards to mental health first aid. And it's like, how do we do this when courses are 8 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours? That's a lot of time to take. But there's a value in it, right? Like, so is it possible to manage? I can answer that. Yeah, it is absolutely possible to manage in all of the curriculums that we offer in the community of ways of making sure that it works with your organization, your structure, your time, while getting the full content and the opportunity to learn there. Last question before we leave is, Kim, I think this is probably more for you. And please, Austin, let me know if I'm getting this right from your question in the Q&A, but the ask is, what measures do you use for ensuring that these digital things or these apps or these AI innovations actually work? Like, how do we track that? Is it in the app itself? Is it like, can you give a short answer as to how do we know if they're working?
Sure. The answer is pre and post are always going to be your best way of measuring success. So I think, Jen, you actually had assess the current state stage, which is really valuable before you do any type of intervention to determine an outcome. So I would say do a pulse check now as to like what you're actually accomplishing in terms of those goals, and make sure it's written down, because sometimes we're so excited about moving forward and getting some type of new tool in place that we didn't take the chance to record the current state and where we are. And then after you do the intervention, you say, okay, this is how it performed, or this is what it didn't do according to what we were hoping for. So that goal setting and that current state are really valuable. And I would say always iterate and always review, because especially with these tools, things are just changing all the time, and you really need to just don't look at it as a once a quarter review. It's really, I'm going to go in there and check out my data today and see how it's looking. And wow, that's really different than what it was a month ago. And just having that curiosity mindset when it comes to utilizing these tools is going to be invaluable for you.
Awesome. I love the way you said that. And it literally moves us into, how we end our time here together. First of all, thank you for taking your time out today to be a part of the conversation. Thank you, Kim. And thank you, Jonathan, always for your insights and perspective and information. Let's use a digital tool. We got a QR code here that if you are curious and that curiosity mindset is front and center for you today, or there's more that you want to know about what we had a conversation of, or the tools or supports and learning opportunities available to you, scan this code, check us out on the website with Mental Health First Aid, our Mental Health First Aid at Work, and talk to one of us. We are here to support you and see what we can do to help navigate these ebbs and flows, these changes. And we know that our program is one that is going to add value to experience. We've seen it over the years, and we're just absolutely thrilled to be able to open up the discussions with you all and answer any questions that you may have. So thanks everyone again. Please take care of yourselves in this ever-changing world that we're in, and cold or sunlight or whatever it is that you're navigating today. But thank you for your time. Thanks for being a part of our conversation here today. And we look forward to engaging with you all definitely in the near future. So be well, and hopefully we'll see you in a mental health first aid class in the future. Bye, everybody.